Welcome back to Cheche. We have with us in the studio a different set of guests, and that's because an impeachment motion, the first against a sitting cabinet secretary, starts later today. That dubious distinction belongs to Anne Waiguru, who's the cabinet secretary responsible for devolution. The MP who moved the motion, Mithuka Linturi, is hosting a breakfast to marshal his troops. And so our guests with us are Aden Abdikadir, who's the MP for Balambala, and Kimani Ichung'wah, who's the MP for Kikuyu. And of course, you represent different sides of the political spectrum. Honorable Abdikadir, you're with ODM, yes. And Honorable Ichung'wah, you're with TNA. And you'll get an opportunity to express your party loyalties a bit later. But first, let's start with this, the impeachment motions, because the National Assembly seems to have declared open season on cabinet secretaries. Is that the case? I'll start with you, Honorable Kadir.
Let me say thank you very much, first of all. I don't think it is open fight with the CSS. Parliament has a responsibility to oversight. The executive, the three arms of government are quite independent. And Parliament has got the responsibility to check on the executive to ensure that there are no excesses, to ensure that there is no abuse, and that the work that the executive is supposed to do is being done well. I will not agree to say that the process is being abused. I think what Honorable Linturi has done is to kick off a process. But he's got to bring issues to the House. He's got to give us, as lawmakers, reasons why he wants us to believe the issues that he's raising against.
Did you sign? Did you sign to have?
No, I'm not one of the people who signed.
So you're not going for breakfast?
No, I'm not invited for the breakfast.
Okay. Right. Honorable Ichung'wah, did you sign the motion? Did you sign his list to impeach?
Yes, I did.
And so you're going for breakfast later?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so why? You seem...
Well, I would really not want to get into the details of why I signed or I didn't sign the petition. Principally because that matter now is seized off by Parliament. We cannot get delve into the details.
Perhaps the important thing to say there, are you still keeping your signature there?
Well, as we speak now, the signature is still there. But we are going for breakfast to deliberate and agree on a way forward. But I want to tell you, largely speaking, quite a number of us are beginning to feel that probably is not the right time. Members who signed did have very legitimate issues with the cabinet secretary, and probably with a few other cabinet secretaries. But probably we are thinking about the timing now.
Is it about the timing or the issue? I mean, if the issue is still...
It's about the timing. I'll tell you it's about the timing of the issue.
What is it about the timing?
We are confronted by a situation where the country has got so many other problems right now. And also both our coalition and the court coalition are now involved in another very heated war. Yeah. So really we have got to reevaluate our options and see which war to fight. And I think it is my personal view that probably it is this is not the time. That is my personal view. But and going for breakfast, that is a view I would want to advance.
Isn't that strange? Is there a right time for right things and a right time for wrong things? Really, to say that it was wrong, but it can wait.
I said that is my personal opinion.
That's what I'm challenging you to hold up to.
The timing is not right, and probably what I would be asking of the Honorable Linturi and other members who had signed that petition is probably to suspend this as we fight these other battles, and if there is need, because the issues again that are there are issues that we can sit down and address. And I know in the next few weeks we will have a retreat for at least the Jubilee Coalition. We will have our own retreat for our parliamentary group. Okay. And the issues that we've had with the cabinet secretaries, we can sort them within.
David is confused by your prioritizing.
Yes, exactly. Yes. One, if a wrong is committed here, you want to tell me that as a member of parliament, you can say, let's leave that wrong to continue to be to persist. because we have something else to fix fast, out of expediency because you have a war to wage with court. Two, as far as I can tell, this motion was not about TNA. So you say TNA has some war to fight, let's leave our internal one. I thought it's a motion on the floor of the House which has participation by
court
and
TNA
and or rather Jubilee. I mean, it wasn't a Jubilee.
Jubilee, I'm only saying as a coalition,
yes,
we have got to choose our battles and know which ones to fight and which ones not to fight. And I'm not saying that there's absolutely nothing wrong that had been done by the Cabinet Secretary, because some of the issues, I will tell you, a lot of the issues that had been raised were hyped, and really some did not have truth and substance in them. There are others that may have truth and substance,
so
but that can only come out at the time when the motion has been brought before Parliament, yes, and the issues have been deliberated on. Therefore, we cannot say that the other issues were not issues.
Honourable Aiden.
Can I
say that?
You've
been wanting to.
Yes. First of all, I just want to tell my colleague that there is no war between Jubilee and court. If anything, there is the fact that now they're feeling the heat that court is doing its job to check on Jubilee. And I'm glad that this is being felt by my colleagues on the other side. I agree with you very much that if a wrong has been committed, there can be no excuse at all whatsoever for us to say that no, now we will have as an afterthought now to say that we will retract on this. The impeachment motion for the CS came from Jubilee, a member of the Jubilee coalition. But now the matter is a matter before the House. We will look at it, and we will ensure that that particular issue is given the attention that it so desires. That is a technicality. Yes, they can withdraw, but then we will do our job as the opposition to show them that indeed, sometimes even and when they see mistakes being committed, Jubilee will turn back and say, okay, because this is one of us, now yes, we will change. And your question was very rightful. We should always be driven by not emotions, but facts that are against that particular CS. I have personally not gone into the details of what the case is against this particular CS, but I can assure you that if they drop it just because they have changed their mind, court will pick it up and ensure if wrongs are committed.
Issue of emotions, picking up on the issue of emotions, because it's not just Anwar Guru. We hear about Fred Matiang'i, the Cabinet Secretary for Communications and ICT, and the Interior Cabinet Secretary, Ole Lenku. And so there's a feeling that A, open season on Cabinet Secretaries, B, that if for any reason MPs and their egos feel somewhat dented by a person, speaking to them or waking up on the wrong side of the morning, that they will threaten them by eliminating their job.
Let me say this.
By fixing them, so to speak.
Let me say this, Amimo.
I'm becoming like this.
Anybody can wake up any day and say, I want to impeach Abimo, I want to impeach Makali or anybody in this country, if you're serving in a position where you need to be impeached. But really, the issues that inform your intention to impeach are the ones that count. I'll tell you, for instance, I had an instance to speak to the Honorable Lalit, who had spoken about impeaching the CS for Information, Matiang'i. And by yesterday, he had only less than 20 signatures. That tells you members of parliament have not been convinced, really, that there is a reason to impeach the CS Matiang'i. But for CS Waiguru, I will tell you, almost close, I think close to 200 members had signed that petition. And that's what I'm saying. It is my personal view today that probably, and I'm one of those people who had signed that petition, and I'm only telling you that if you ask me today, is probably not the time, because again, a lot of the information that we had been given then may not have been as factual as it was made to look. But I would not be the one preempting
or
even anticipating debates.
Isn't it the case that you are under pressure from the president and the deputy president? You're just trying out to run away from the fact.
Let me say,
you have had pressure from the president and the deputy president. The deputy president, if anybody is sacked to that guy from the National Security Board, don't ask Waiguru, ask me. Isn't that the case?
Let me say this. If it was pressure from the president or the deputy president, then that motion would have been dropped last week on Tuesday when the Jubilee's PG went to State House. But I will tell you for a fact that after the State House meeting, an additional 20 members signed that petition.
But doesn't that speak
why
to
are you
internal
withdrawing it?
wrangling within your party?
It is not. It is not. It is not Jubilee members who signed alone. I know there are about four extra Jubilee members who signed, but there are also additional CORD members. And really, the issues that we have seen, or rather I have seen, and I said we do not want to anticipate debate on the floor of the House because I do not know as at now whether the motion will be coming or not. But I was only expressing my personal view.
Can I say that on this particular issue, Mheshimiwa, you signed that particular impeachment.
Yes.
I will not put my signature to an issue unless I am convinced that the matters raised thereon are issues that are worth impeaching a cabinet secretary. It so appears, and I know you very well as a very bright person, it so appears that the argument had convinced you to sign at that point in time. And the change of heart is what is rightfully being said. It's just because strings are being pulled from elsewhere, and that's why the change of heart is coming. And you know what, I just want to say that Kenyans are watching this. Yeah. Kenyans are watching this and carefully realizing, obviously realizing that indeed interests of the saving the coalition, as you started with and said, we are fighting other battles with court. We cannot do this one. This is how you started it. And I must say this is absolutely wrong.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I did say, Abdikadir, that one, that is my personal opinion, not the opinion of the coalition. Two, the issues, and I did point it out, that the issues that made of close to 200 members to append their signatures are issues that still exist. Yes. There are others.
Then they should continue. The matter should be prosecuted before the House.
Even at the time, for instance, myself, I appended my signature. Yes. There are certain issues that I had my own question marks on. But
how do we know? How do we know? Yeah. Because you know this country.
You can only know that during debates.
How do we know that if you withdraw, it's not because some people have been compromised?
Well, let me say
that you went to State House, made your appointment, then you approach one after the other.
That a nice breakfast is being paid for you.
I've told you this. If people were to be compromised, then on 3rd of June, when we had a meeting with the head of state and the deputy head of state, deputy president, on 3rd of June, then that is the day that motion would have been dropped. And I'm also telling you, up to now, the motion has not been dropped.
A lot of what has gone
as we speak now, the motion has not been dropped.
Yeah, they have not been. You see, the motion has not been dropped either for strategic reasons, to avoid embarrassment on the side of Mr. Linturi, because, well, it's in the public domain. He's under pressure to pull the motion out. Two, it is apparent that there is a lot of he's operating under a lot of pressure, and if he pulls it out, for where I sit, that is, he's done it under duress. Well, and therefore, we cannot absolve you, members of parliament. If you meet this morning and after your tea or whatever transpires, that motion does not end on the floor of the House, seeing the rallies and what has been pushed to Linturi, then we'll know that there is manipulation going on. And as you just said yourself, you have other wars to fight. This can wait. So the country's interest, if indeed Waiguru is guilty of those offenses or failures, is going to be compromised at the altar of your own political expedience.
That is true. Let me say, I'll not pretend to speak for the Honorable Linturi. I don't know if he's under any pressure from any quarters. But I can tell you, as a member of parliament, I am not, and I do not know of any Jubilee member of parliament who is under pressure from anybody. And I'm telling you, if it was to succumb to pressure, then because
even your majority leader.
The majority leader has been expressing his opinion as a member of parliament, not as a majority leader. And he has said this is not a Jubilee coalition motion. It is a private member's motion who has every right, as Mheshimiwa said, to oversight the executive. And therefore, every other member of parliament who appended their signatures to that motion, to the petition, had that right and was simply exercising that right. And therefore, they also have a right. Like I said, and I said, I'm only expressing my own opinion. I don't know why you are concluding that the motion has been dropped by anybody, because I am not. I am here to go for the breakfast and know what is going on.
In the event it is, that will be the inevitable conclusion.
In the event, and believe me, I would want to convince my colleagues probably to give it a little more time and look at the issues.
I just want to say that probably the whole idea of impeaching CS Waiguru was just a manifestation of the wrangles that exist within Jubilee. Probably she was just an innocent victim
Exactly.
who came as a result of the
Got caught in the
rumbles,
crosshairs.
yes, in that. And now they are realizing that they have to bring these matters before people like us, before people who have no issues with this individual called Anwar Guru. Yes. So they're feeling embarrassed that really there is no substance to bring before there, and that's why my good friend is taking now.
But if you're talking about embarrassment, surely both your coalitions have a bit of egg on your faces now, because you've talked about prioritizing, and the issue of dialogue is where you want to concentrate your efforts. And so we are talking about to dialogue or not to dialogue, how to not dialogue. So we had the president at the religious meeting yesterday, which the CORD leaders stayed away from. So where are we going with this? If, as a National Assembly, you can put aside matters that should interest the country for political expediency.
Let me put the record straight. One, we are not saying that the National Assembly is putting aside this motion, because that is not a decision that Kimani Ichung'wah can make. And I told you I'm expressing my personal view on that matter. And that is an argument I would want to advance if I were in that breakfast meeting. Two, on the question of dialogue, it is true that we are hyping up the issue of dialogue. And some people want to make it look like there are those who are not interested in dialogue. But we have made it very clear that we are all interested in dialogue. I think the point of departure is, where do we dialogue? And through what institutions do we dialogue? And what is motivating this dialogue? Is it the interest of the people? Or is it personal and political interest that are driving this call for dialogue? And I must be quick to mention that yesterday I was lucky to watch the Honorable Prime Minister, former Prime Minister, on your show with Mohammed. And there's a pertinent question that Mohammed did ask Raila. That one, if these rallies that you have called for across the country are to collate and collect views of the public, which you will advance in your dialogue discussions, what should have come first then? Is it the collecting of the views, public views, or is it your call for dialogue? And he was not very keen to answer that question. I want to say it simply betrayed the hypocrisy that is there within CORD. That one, this call for dialogue is not about the issues that affect and afflict the Kenyan people. The call for dialogue is, one, about Raila Odinga, two, about Raila Odinga's political ambitions, three, about their quest and thirst for political power. And they are simply looking for an excuse to create a situation where they will negotiate for political power. And therefore, really, let them not hoodwink Kenyans that this call for dialogue has got anything to do with the issues that affect the people of Kenya. Because if there were issues, the Honorable Abdikadir Mohammed is a member of parliament. Eden is a member of parliament in the CORD coalition. He has every opportunity and right to bring motions on issues that touch on the cost of living, on insecurity, and all the other issues they're talking about. Even on the disbandment of IBC.
Right. Let me say, Udwak, that first of all, Honorable Raila Odinga yesterday did not miss out in that particular event. He went to attend to a very important issue. There was the funeral of Cheche, which was very unfortunate, a very neutral sheikh, and I must send my condolences to the family. And it was something that came up as an emergency, and he really had to attend to, and I think represented all of us as Kenyans very well in that place. Also, just to correct a perception that that Parliament is a place to dialogue. That is absolutely wrong. Parliament is a house of debate. Parliament is a house of legislation. We don't go to Parliament to dialogue. We go to Bomas to dialogue, so that we dialogued over a very long period of time and came up with the Constitution. This is what dialogue is. And I just want to correct my Mheshimiwa here that, yes, while I can bring legislations on issues that are of different nature, the place to dialogue and the nature of dialogue that CORD is pushing for is not the one that happens on the floor of the House. That is a house of debate, just for correction. In terms of the dialogue that CORD has pushed for, I really wonder what is wrong by saying, let us come together as Kenyans. All is not well. And my colleague earlier in a statement said it so that issues of insecurity, we are having every part of this country is now almost up in flames. Nobody is being sent home for not doing their job rightfully. What's going on? These are questions being asked by Kenyans. We need to give Kenyans an opportunity and a forum to ask the pertinent issues which they do not have an opportunity to ask in any other forums. So what I want to say is dialogue is a forum that needs to happen. Remember, when Kenya went through very critical moments in the past, in its history, issues were resolved through dialogue. There was indeed a time, let me just tell my colleague here, him and I were probably very young and in school back in the days, but I do remember when Parliament could not resolve the issues in the Moi time, moving from the one-party rule to this, the issue of inter-party dialogue had to be created. IPPG had to be created. It was moved out of Parliament and brought to, I think it was KICC, brought there. Why? So that people could dialogue on these issues. Kenyans gave their views. Those, if Parliament is a place to dialogue, then during IPPG, then people should have dialogued in Parliament. All I want to say, Uduak, is that when, and as you saw, the rally that last Honorable Raila did, Right Honorable Raila did in Isili, this is an opportunity to give the Mwananchi to say what the issues are. How do they see it? What are the issues that concern them a lot? That's out of that. Yes.
Just a minute.
Yes.
No, hang on. Just a minute.
Yes.
In terms of strategy,
yes,
one could accuse Raila Odinga and CORD of whipping up emotions, making the country ungovernable. But also, if you're so keen on this dialogue and improving the lot of Kenyans,
yes,
why has the opposition not formed a shadow cabinet? Why has it not appointed people to take on the various departments we have within the government to shadow them? And
right,
so, therefore, offer up the solutions.
Yes.
Because what the opposition seems to be struggling with is, while it criticizes the government, it doesn't have any credible alternatives to offer.